What's the role of learning and development? It has a fairly important role because if you look at the CEO's perspective, there are three important levers. One is, what's the business strategy, the vision, mission? How does the structure and design align to the business strategy? And third, what does it mean in terms of the people agenda? It is learning and development which actually spends a good amount of time. And if I have to get some inputs on people changes, organization changes, structure changes, the only function which I believe can give me appropriate insights, because they actually spend time with the people on a learning platform. All of you are aware about the Banking Recruitment Service Board. You have a very, very stringent evaluation process, and you take on probationary officers. He is trained for a period of 1 year, because what is absolutely sure is that once he is trained, he serves the organization for a minimum period of 20 years. The time horizon, both from the employee and the organization, has reduced. There is a huge constraint in terms of resources. And I always use this analogy, which is like to say, what is it that is a learning and development function asked today? If you were to look at it, make a distinction of a fast food was a 3-course lunch or dinner. If you're talking about a fast food, you are essentially sort of looking at it from the point of view of, you don't have to book in advance, you don't have to reserve a table in advance, it's available all the time, it does not specify timings, you can choose what you want, the quantity is limited, the content is important, packaging is not so good, the ambience is not so good. Here it is absolutely offer it at the most appropriate time, offer it to the right target audience, offer it in the right quantity, and offer it in a way that it can be consumed fast. And that's how things have changed. If you happen to see the headlines today, Economic Times carries about TCS being able to reduce their cost because of the higher emphasis on the freshers intake. The business is expecting the lead time and the cost of training to be outside the organization. How do we make it happen? They want people, but they are not willing to invest in terms of time and cost. People have to be trained when they are on transit. Transit between education and industry, transit between two jobs. If you look at it, there is a need for a very clear tripartite understanding of what this L&D intervention is meant to be, what are the expectations from the participants, what are the expectations from line, and what are the expectations from the L&D function. It's all about ensuring that you have a good collaborated learning between all the stakeholders. We need to understand the difference between a strategy and a plan. Most of us get confused on this. Strategy does answer the question, what and why. Plan talks about who and when and how. Are we aligned between HR and learning and development? So clearly the question is, are we very clear in terms of the business priorities? What are the core competencies that is going to become the success factor for the organization? Are we clear in terms of what is going to be the people strategy and what is going to be the L&D strategy, which is dovetailed with the people strategy? You should be talking about the performance outcomes, the learning outcomes. We should talk in terms of value. What is going to be the value delivered by this intervention? There is a huge danger in having a discussion with your customer on understanding its requirements, but not understanding what is really happening outside on the people front. What's very important is first agree on the objectives and then look at the various options available to us. Whether it is mobile learning, whether it is self-paced learning, whether it is e-learning, you have to look at coaching, shadowing, assignments, action learning programs. You have to go beyond providing just an input to the person by getting him together and getting him into a conference room. The concept of hire and train has changed to first source, train, and then hire. So intern-based recruitment is something which will help you to ensure that the person coming on board has approximately about 3 to 6 months advantage, and he would have understood the organization better, and we have a higher probability of retaining him in the system, and we are not really making mistakes on the choice. So there are a variety of ways by which you can always look at how to ensure that the person comes in, and the ask is first our productivity. And that's the ask for today. We also look at is ambition and engagement. Ambition and engagement is essentially in terms of, it includes parameters like mobility, what is the person seeking, and that's how we identify the talents. We have something called as Orange All, which is basically a mobile learning intervention which provides training inputs to the talents in very, very short 3 to 5 minutes inputs, which comes at regular intervals. We have found this to be very effective. For us, it has been either a 50% drop in attrition in the focus groups, 69% of our talents are overperformers. We have virtually, by having a good strategy in place, reduced intake of leadership talents in the organization as laterals, because there is a perpetual focus on building from within, and over 75% of talents have seen role changes over the last 3 years. L&D has to change its outlook from being a service function to a strategic function. That's my ask. Thank you.